on the News Channel 5 network. This is Morning Line with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris. Wait, I always forget to put my mic on. Why do I do that? I thought I already had it on. Oh, it's because it's on the side here. Now I've got my mic. You know, I come running over here from the studio next door where I've got one, remote on me the whole time, so I forget to put this on. Anyway, this is Nick Barris on Morning Line, and appreciate you joining us on this Tuesday. We've got a good show on tap for you. We're going to be coming to you on the Plus this morning, as well on streaming video at newschannel5.com on Facebook if you'd like to join us there as well. And if you have any questions or comments for our guest, feel free. A lot of things we're going to talk about since it's been a couple of weeks since we've seen him here in the city of Nashville, things that are going on and beyond. You're welcome to join in the conversation. But of course, we have the mask mandate. Okay, we have a situation now where we've stepped back from phase 3 to phase 2. We have a lawsuit and an injunction being sought right now, a restraining order rather, by some of the downtown bars, saying that it's unconstitutional for them to have to close again, and it's costing them millions of dollars. Where that stands, we can also talk a little bit about the defunding of the police department, which is something that's being discussed nationally, has been brought up here in Metro as well. And our own sheriff in Davidson County, which is separate from the police department, had some thoughts on that yesterday, on not necessarily defunding, but finding other ways to do a better job policing and in law enforcement. We'll touch on that, and not the least of which, too, we're hearing that Core Civic is going to step aside now, and they're pulling away. Maybe they saw the writing on the wall anyway, but that is a private institution that helped in the running of our jails here in Davidson County. So a lot there. We'll open up the phone lines for you as well, and comments on Facebook for the Vice Mayor in the great city of Nashville, Jim Shulman. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Nick. I'm glad you got your microphone.
I've got my mic on. Without my mic, I'm dead in the water. Hey, listen, just wanted to ask you, had you had a chance to meet Charlie Daniels? Because, he lived in where I lived for a number of years in Mount Juliet. And, of course, very sadly, we learned yesterday he died at age 83. And just a huge, huge loss for the music industry, people who love music, Music City. Had you met him before?
Never met him, but obviously a legend in the music world, and it's a sad day for the city, for the country, and for the world. He was quite a character.
Oh, yeah, he was just I had met him a couple of times on stories. Straight shooter, fun-loving guy, strong in his beliefs, would tell you how he felt. But, is there a more well-known song out there than The Devil Went Down to Georgia? I'm telling you. That is an incredibly famous and great song, which he's best known for, but certainly he had a lot more music under his belt as well.
It's, I don't know, what do you say? It's a part of life. We go through it, we do the best we can with what we do. He rose to the top of his profession. He was so well known, and leaves a mark, and very strong mark, and I think we'll miss him.
Yeah, you think about some of these artists that transcended just their music in the state of Tennessee anyway. And I think of like Charlie Daniels. I certainly think of someone like Dolly Parton, who also posted yesterday about her feelings on the loss and how much she's going to miss him. But anyway, let's move on beyond that. But I wanted to mention it. Where do you want to start, Vice Mayor? A lot going on right now. We've got the mask mandate in place. Yeah. We're going to learn later this morning at 9:30. I guess we're going back to having two news conferences a week now. As we sit at phase 2, which shut down some of these bars and brought some other changes, but really the bars now seeking legal action to keep them from closing. Just your thoughts on that?
Certainly a lot of stuff going on in the city. The biggest concern, I think, that from the city standpoint is trying to make sure that people are safe. Mm-hmm. When the mandate for the mask was being discussed a while back, it just seemed, and we've said this on this program a number of times, it's a pretty easy thing for everybody just to put on a mask. I know people sometimes feel like their personal rights are being violated, but it's just a mask. Mm-hmm. Now, if you have a health complication from it, I get that, but it's simply a mask. Put it on because you're really protecting other people. At this point, I know, obviously, people see the bar folks seeking an injunction. nobody really wanted to go back to phase 2 or go back even further. I mean, you look at what's going on in this country and look at what's going on around the world. Other countries seem to have a better handle on it than we do. I think we were just antsy to get back to where things were, as is everybody else. Now we don't want to go back. And so what you have to do is, if we don't want to go back, what are those simple steps that we can do to try to keep everybody as safe as possible? You know, with the protection of older individuals who are much more at risk. But for people who are going out, put on a mask and practice social distancing. Because obviously, if you look at those numbers, Nick, those numbers are spiking. They just keep going up and up. It's pretty scary. Until we get a vaccine, we have to figure out a way to control it ourselves, and the easiest way to do it is with a mask and social distancing and just being very, very careful.
Yeah, I mean, I look at some of the comments on Facebook, and like Brandon saying, if masks are so great, nothing should be shut down, right? And, you know, and still some of the pushback that I see out there from some in the public on this, and I think you, the mayor, everyone doesn't like placing restrictions on anyone, but the idea of masks being helpful, I think part of the problem here is why we're mandating masks is because no one was wearing them, and certainly in these bars that were open, and we all saw the video, I mean, they were packed, and very few people were wearing masks, and so that created some of this. The numbers that we have now is that the largest, fastest growing number of infected individuals in this area now are among younger folks, okay? Right. I mean, not teenagers, but, you know, 20s to 40, in that range there. Folks going about. I just keep seeing denials and people not wanting to do it, and I'm wondering, as you hear that hospitals are beginning to run out of emergency room space and, you know, the intensive care units and all of this, I mean, are you oblivious? Because that could be you, me, or anyone else at some point, and if there's no hospital space, that's a problem. People are going to die.
Well, you saw probably last week that University of Alabama story where people were having COVID-19 parties to see how fast somebody could get it.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that is so dangerous. And I know young people got out, and I know those numbers are increasing pretty fast. And again, I think younger people probably go, well, you know, much better chance of getting through this, and I can live through this, and hopefully there isn't a problem. The problem comes with infecting, well, both themselves, but then other people. And the concern is, again, if you get it and you carry it and you give it to somebody who has an underlying health condition, or somebody who's older who may have an underlying health condition, you may seriously jeopardize their life. And nobody wants to do that, or nobody should want to do that, and nobody wants to live with those consequences. So people just need to be careful. Those numbers are true. Our numbers, I mean, look at the numbers in the state and in the city. They are just going up and up. And again, we don't want to go back. I mean, I certainly don't want to go backwards. We need the economy functioning, and we want people to come visit. We're still trying to figure out, you know, with all the tourists coming in, you know, how do you invite people into your city, be courteous, but get them to wear a mask? And I mean, just think, Nick, I mean, I know we've had situations down on Broadway, lots of people crowded into a bar, and people go, whether they're from out of town or whatever, but they're also infecting, or could be infecting, employees of the bars, the staff of the bars, people down there. This is very tricky and very dangerous, and we just have to be really, really careful.
Some people, you know, are also pointing out the fact that there have been protests, and about a protest, at least 2 or 3 every week, it seems like, on some of these social issues. And the concern there, one, asking, you know, all right, could there be a spread there? We've heard from the health department that they've done some of the social tracing and have only really confirmed a handful of cases coming from the protests, but certainly there are some close quarters there, and you would imagine that could be a threat, just like other places. But saying, well, can you just stop the protests? And, you know, well, you allow the protests to go on, but you're closing bars. Can you talk about the difference in this and what you are able to do and what you aren't?
Yeah, I mean, the bars are a business establishment run by licensing, whatever. The protest and the rallies, freedom of speech. the right to assemble. I mean, those are constitutional rights. And I think, at least to the most part, at least from what I've seen, I know that the rallies, sometimes you get people too close. I mean, that's sometimes what happens, particularly if you're in kind of a confined space or if you're marching. But for the most part, I know that the folks who are marching or going to the rallies are wearing face masks, which is really, really good. Interesting time in this country. We're trying to protect people from, a serious health problem, but people want to be heard, and I think that's really important as well. So it's a different thing. I mean, one is a business that you can control from the standpoint of you can allow their operation or not. We'll see what happens with the court. The protests and the rallies are part of the freedom of speech, and I'm not sure how you can basically say you can't do that, because that's a constitutionally mandated right.
Let's go to Ann on the phone lines. Ann, good morning. Hi, Ann.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, last weekend I went to Alabama with my grandsons and had a wonderful experience at Unclaimed Luggage, where it was safe, secure, everybody had masks, even the parking lot was regulated, no problems whatsoever. When I ran to my local Walgreens to pick up a prescription and, to be honest, Polident, as soon as I went in, there were young men at the ATM in the 18 to 30 bracket laughing, no mask. I went to grab my Polident. There were customers in the store, no mask. Saturday night, Friday night, what I saw on Broadway was atrocious. The party buses were atrocious. Now, I can drive an hour and go to Alabama and shop for 3 hours safely, but I can't leave my home in East Nashville and run to my Walgreens or turn on my television and see what's going on Saturday on Broadway. Those bar owners should be fined. Those bar owners that had to have an official walk in and say, our mayor mandated you closed and you violated the city ordinance and you went ahead for the sake of $1 and you opened up your bar and you exposed how many hundreds of residents of this city by allowing those customers to come in and then go back out. The visitors went back to a hotel. The residents went back to their families and their mothers and their fathers and their nieces and their cousins and their nephews. That is a violation of my civil liberties.
All right, we're going to have to go up to the break, but you have a quick response to her take, and Ann's called in and expressed that before, her frustration with it. So.
No, I mean she's got very serious points. Part of it, Ann, is that enforcement. I know that they went down and they were shutting down some of the bars over the weekend, and obviously they're supposed to be shut down the bars for 2 weeks, and then some bars stayed open, and then they've got them to close. The one point I'll really quickly say is this is a world pandemic. It's up to everybody to take the proper safeguards. So you want the bar owners, you want the public, you want our employees, and you want visitors to think through this and do what they're supposed to. And if it's too crowded to go into a bar, don't go in. Don't go into an establishment that is not practicing what Ann's talking about.
Yeah. All right. Listen, we'll take a break on that note. We have more calls and more comments as well on Facebook and other issues to touch on as well. A good question here for you to think on. Frankie brings up the point. If Core Civic is dropping out now, is Metro and the Davidson County Jail prepared to handle and take over everything within this next 90 days, if that's the situation, their situation with deputies and all of that, if Core Civic steps out, and how ready the city will be to handle that. And I know you guys have a council meeting tonight, and a lot of this will be on the agenda. We'll take a break and be back and touch on more of that as well right after this.